speaking of Dib's life, does his little story about potentially being abducted by aliens as a child come back up again? Because that line was, you know, as a more like modern Cartoon Network watcher, where every show, well, even modern Disney cartoons, like every show, a line like that, you're like, ooh, little secret history to come out later about the character.
I think that's just characterization for Dib right there. He's smarter than the rest of them, but like he's incredibly conceited, so he's still just as dumb as them, even though he's way smarter than them. If, you know, we may use varying definitions of intelligence for that glib statement.
Right, I mean, he is very kind to follow Torque around, but also he, you know, lets out a classic, "You'll all thank me," you know.
Oh, yeah.
So still very concerned about what it means for himself. And yeah, it's just the perfect little story to feed into, like, that it builds this idea that he has his own life narrative, building up to why he needs to be doing what he's doing, which is great.
I mean, although maybe he was tinkered with by Professor Membrane. That would explain why Gaz is such a disturbingly powerful individual. I mean, I don't want to say she'd be winning very many death battles, but as far as Invader Zim characters are concerned, her power level is probably right up there, not far below Miss Bitters.
Zim has such an interesting potential to have that, like, you know, where some show like Steven Universe had the early goofy humor and then some serious, you know, storytelling. There's something interesting about Zim purely existing in this also weird but also horrific world, and letting that, like, let the story continue to, like, drive horrific things. Like, maybe Dib was experimented on as a child or something, but it just drives towards horror that drives comedy, purely, though. And, like, you can keep building on the narrative, but it could only ever serve the just hilarity of how awful it is, without you ever actually caring about the character, because you're like, well, it's also a horrible person. They're all horrible people.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, even Dib's not a great person. He's lucid, unlike most of them, so that's a big plus. But I will note, though, that Dib is the big brother, and all he gets is to be the intelligence of what we would consider to be an average human being. Whereas Gaz is just as smart, and although incredibly apathetic, she's the one with the freaky power set. So I think Membrane perfected the art with Gaz. Or maybe if he had a third child, that would be the perfect child. Food for thought. Our opening and closing music is by Mark Soto. For more cartoon-related content, please visit lunarceasefire.com.